Hi, everybody. Sorry I got started a few minutes late. Hi, Emmy. It's good to see you. Um, since we started going over this practice test on Law Hub yesterday, I figured we'd go through some more questions today while I had some time. And I'm like actively trying not to work on this paper I need to write. So thank you guys. If you're joining, I am a law student. I need to put up a sticky note with my whole spiel. But I'm a third-year law student. I'm an LSAT tutor. We started going over practice test 158 on Law Hub yesterday, and we won't get through it today either, but I wanted to just do a couple more questions. I can't show the questions on the screen, but if you have Law Hub access, you should just pull it up. Let me put this up here. But I hope you guys are having a good Sunday. It's good to see some familiar faces. Let me know which test states you guys are registered for, if you're registered for a test state right now. That's a good idea, Nasser. Can I pin here? Okay. Oh, good job, Emmy. Okay, so let's just jump into it then. We went over question 1, and if anyone went over the questions already and have specific ones you want to go over, you can just drop it in the chat. Otherwise, I'm just going to go like straight down. 14. Let's look at 14. Okay. So 14 tells us, unlike stars, planets do not generate light, but only reflect it. Okay, so they're giving us the information here. Hi, Ray. And I'm going to do the same thing that I do. I stop and I translate it in my head. So if I were to read this first sentence, I might translate it and say something like, and we're on question 14. Okay. So I might say something like planets, make this bigger. Planets don't generate light, only reflect. And then I noticed that they also begin that sentence by saying, unlike stars. So that means that stars do generate light. Okay, so then let's look what they say next. They say next, besides stars, there are many other celestial objects in this galaxy that are not planets. Okay, so it's saying in this galaxy, there's stars, there's planets, and there are other celestial objects. So right now, I know stars generate light, planets only reflect light, and there's other types of celestial objects in the galaxy. And so the last sentence says, hence, there are celestial objects in this galaxy that generate light but are not stars. Okay, when I see that word hence, that's telling me that that is the conclusion. And so what they're saying here, if I take what they're saying in the conclusion in this last sentence, the conclusion that they say this adds up to, so there's planets and stars and other bodies, and they're saying the conclusion is that other bodies, not stars, generate light. Okay. And so now I have my quick notes, and I'm going to synthesize what what I just read. And the more times you do this slow, the faster you get. I'm on Law Hub right now, Francis. So if you have a Law Hub account, I'm looking at practice test 158, section 2, number 14. I can't show the... Sorry, Nasser. So for this one specifically, and that's just why it says a practice test, I can't show the Law Hub questions because they're under copyright. But you can make an LSAT account on your own for free, and it's a free test that's on Law Hub. So you don't have to have Advantage. You just need to have the Law Hub regular login. I just can't show those ones because, I don't know, I'm trying to be a lawyer. Yeah, you get it. Okay, thanks, Nasser. I'll get better at putting all that info in here. Again, I'm a noob, and I just hop on here when I have time. But I appreciate the questions because I need those questions. So this question is telling us altogether that stars generate light, planets only reflect light, and there's other things in the galaxy. In no way does that tell us that those other things in the galaxy have to generate light. There's nothing in here that tells us that those have to generate light. Toby, I scored 170. I took it when it had logic games on it, and I only took it once. So right away, I'm wondering, why are they thinking that the stars, that there has to be other bodies that generate light? So instantly, before I go to my answer choices, I have that prediction in my head. And I always make a prediction before I go to the answer choices because I want to already have an idea of what I'm looking for. So let's go through these answer choices and see if any of them pick apart this flaw or this question I'm wondering, which is, why are they saying they have to generate light? What rule is there that says these other bodies also have to generate light? So if I look at answer choice A says, the question is asking, this argument is most vulnerable to the criticism that A, this galaxy contains no celestial objects that reflect light other than planets. So right away, I'm noticing that my conclusion is about generating light. Answer choice A is about reflecting light. So already, answer choice A is talking about something that's not talked about in my conclusion. So I feel pretty good about ruling it out. If I want to dig a little bit further, what it says, no celestial objects, there are no celestial objects that reflect light other than planets. That is not a weakness, because if there were celestial objects that reflected light, that wouldn't have any impact on the conclusion, because the conclusion is about generating light. So answer choice A, it brings up things that are talked about in the premise, in the first sentence. But we are always focused on the conclusion. So answer choice A doesn't talk about the conclusion. So we look at answer choice B. Answer choice B says celestial objects in this galaxy comprise only a minute percentage of all the celestial objects in the universe. So again, this doesn't bring up generating light. We want something that talks about generating light because the conclusion is about generating light. Answer choice B doesn't bring up generating light at all. And if you wanted to dig a little bit further, saying that, and when they say minute percentage, they just mean a small percentage. The conclusion isn't talking about the conclusion isn't talking about the universe. The conclusion is talking about the galaxy. So not only is this answer choice not talking about generating light, it's also not sticking to the galaxy. We don't care about the universe. We're talking about this galaxy. So answer choice B doesn't fit either. If I look at answer choice C says celestial objects in this galaxy are not the only celestial objects that generate light. Okay, so if I go back to, sometimes I have to go back to the conclusion to remind myself what I'm trying to prove or disprove or attack. So the conclusion again was there's celestial objects that generate light in addition to stars. Answer choice C just says the celestial objects in this galaxy are not the only ones that generate light. So it talks about generating light, but it's still talking about things outside of the galaxy. Because they're saying celestial objects in this galaxy are not the only celestial objects that generate light, which means there must be other ones outside of the galaxy. But we don't care about the other ones outside of the galaxy. Additionally, the conclusion isn't saying only certain bodies generate light or only certain bodies can. Like answer choice C says, not the only. And the conclusion doesn't say that. The conclusion only talks about bodies that can generate light. It does not say anything about bodies that cannot generate light. So answer choice C doesn't fit the conclusion either, meaning it doesn't attack the conclusion. So if I look at answer choice D, there are numerous features that distinguish stars from planets, besides the ability to generate light. Okay, that's great for stars and planets, but we always want to come back to our conclusion. Our conclusion, if we just look at the words in the conclusion, it's about celestial objects. The conclusion was saying that there are celestial objects that can generate light. Answer choice D, saying they're talking about the features of stars, is not the same thing. We're talking about celestial objects in general, and then specifically not stars. If you look at the way the sentence ends, we're talking about not stars. And so answer choice D is off topic too. It would not impact the conclusion because it doesn't connect to the same elements. So let's look at answer choice E. Answer choice E says planets are not the only celestial objects that do not generate light. Okay, it talks about celestial objects. It talks about generating light, so it looks pretty good. Let's double check with what the conclusion said again. So the conclusion was saying there are other things in the galaxy that generate light. Answer choice E says there are other things in the galaxy. Answer choice E says that planets are not the only objects that do not generate light. What answer choice E is doing is picking up on this disconnect that we took notes on. If you look back at our notes, or the way I summarized this, the conclusion was other bodies that aren't stars generate light. Answer choice E goes right against that. Answer choice E does criticize the conclusion because it says it does not consider that there are other planets that do not generate light. So answer choice E is the one that directly would contradict the conclusion, because the conclusion is saying that there are other bodies that are not stars that generate light, meaning that they're saying planets are the only ones who do not generate light. Answer choice E argues against that because it actually says what I kind of just said. Planets are not the only celestial objects that do not generate light. So answer choice E is the one that picks up on the disconnect in the argument. Because when I read this, I wondered, why does the author think that all the other bodies must generate light? And answer choice E highlights that. It says that the author does not consider that maybe everything else doesn't generate light. Maybe there are other celestial bodies that do not generate light. And so that's how I would go through this question. When I go through weekend questions, my process for most questions is the same, but my process for weekend questions is when you're reading, you want to ask yourself, does this make sense? If there's a gap in the argument, that means that's probably where the weakness is going to be. And that's where you want to look for it. And so when you go into the answer choices, you want to look for an answer choice that hopefully, I would say 8 times out of 10, what you predict will show up in the answer choices. So I hope that helped with how I think through weekend questions. This is one where you could diagram. I think diagramming might make this messy. I've been thinking about doing some, but I make all my students learn how to diagram, so I do think it's a good thing to learn, but it's just not necessary for every question. But if you would be interested in some diagramming sessions, because it does help, it really is a game changer, let me know in the chat too. I'm thinking about doing maybe longer section reviews. So yeah, just let me know what you guys think. But if this was helpful, definitely please like and share. And let me know if you guys if there's a specific question you want to go over next. If not, I'm just going to go on to probably question 15. But if anyone else, thank you for all the gifts, Ray. I love that. Thank you. If you have a specific one, just drop it in the chat. And yeah, next live, I'm going to follow Nasir's suggestion. I'm going to pin my all my info so people have it. Okay, yeah, the next one looks good because it's a really ugly one. Okay, so right now, let me change this. I'm looking at 14. 19. Let's look at 19. I hate the science ones. Those were always my least favorite. Especially actually the galaxy ones, because my brain just doesn't work like that. Okay, let me see if I can add a new sticky note, and we'll go over that one. Okay. So this one says the differences in distance. Daniel, you'll have to independently look it up. I'll do a better job of explaining on my next live. I can't show the Law Hub questions just because of copyright, but I'm doing the free test that's on Law Hub. It's just test 158. So you'll have to like pull out your computer or whatever. But yes, thank you for asking. Okay, so the first question says, the first sentence says, the differences in distance from Earth, from between the stars, in any one distant galaxy are negligible compared to the vast distance to the galaxy itself. So already I hate this sentence. It's a very long sentence, but there's no secret to like understanding a lot of words. You just go really slow at it and then you get faster. So we're going to break it down. And this is like I'm going very slow, but this is literally like the steps that go on in my brain. So the differences in distance. So already they're saying the word differences. So that means a comparison. So I'm setting myself up to receive two sets of information because they're going to, I could tell they're going to compare the differences in distance of two things, of two different things compared to something else. So the differences in distance from Earth, okay, so Earth's our starting place, between the stars in any one galaxy. So one distance is the Earth and galaxy stars. And they're saying that the difference in that distance compared to, is negligible, meaning like insignificant, compared to the vast distance to the galaxy itself. So if I organize this, what I just heard myself say was diff and distance of Earth to stars. Okay, to stars is very little compared to Earth to galaxy. And you might see like I'm not writing in complete sentences. I want it to make sense to you guys, but on the test, like I wouldn't be worried about it like being perfect English. It just has to make sense to me. It could literally be just like capital letters. I use capital letters all the time without full words. Okay. So then if I go to the next sentence, it says thus, and thanks so much for the likes, guys, and please check out my profile if you're studying for the LSAT. So then it says thus, if two stars are in the same distant galaxy, and already I saw the word thus, so I know this is going to be a conclusion. If two stars are in the same distant galaxy, any significant difference in the apparent brightness of those stars results from differences in how brightly each is actually burning. Okay, this is another really terrible sentence. So I'm going to break it down. Perfect. Yes, I will save this live and I will post it. I'll post it to YouTube, so check my YouTube. I'll check it this evening. It'll be up there. Okay. So it says, thus, if two stars are in the same distant galaxy, any significant difference, so already I'm picturing this in my head. So we have two stars in the same galaxy. Any difference in the brightness of those stars results in how brightly each is actually burning. Okay, so what they're telling us here is they're saying basically if stars look different and have a difference in brightness, it's not the distance that's doing it. It's because of how bright it's actually burning. And I know that because of how they structured it. Because they're saying if two stars are in the same distant galaxy, then they're saying the difference in how brightly each is burning is actually how it's burning. Which tells me they're saying it's not because of distance. So I'm going to write just a little note here. If two stars have diff brightness because of how they burn. Okay. And then it goes on to our last sentence and it says, therefore, okay, another conclusion word. So you can have multiple conclusions in a stimulus, and that's where things get tricky, but we have another conclusion word. So it says, therefore, we should be able to determine how a star's relative actual brightness correlates with other characteristics by studying stars in the same distant galaxy. Okay, when I read that, instantly I was like, what are you talking about? Because I did not hear them talk about determining like the relative actual brightness and how it I didn't hear anything about the correlation with other characteristics. That didn't come up at all in the stimulus. If you get elements that show up in a conclusion that didn't show up in a stimulus, your like LSAT antennas need to go up. Because I'm wondering, well, how do they know that? How do they know that we should be able to determine the brightness by where do they talk about correlating with characteristics? And so I'm going to jot that conclusion down, but I'm noting that it doesn't really make sense to me. But the conclusion is, oh goodness, what was the conclusion? Okay, we can determine stars' brightness by correlation with other traits of other stars. Okay. So there's a gap here. The gap I'm picking up is why are they saying that we can determine this by looking at the other characteristics? So let's go to our answer choices and see if any of them fill that gap. I love your guesses. Great job. Good job, Bray. So let's look at their answer choices. Answer choice A. First they're asking which of the following is an assumption. Answer choice A says, hi Reeves, says if two stars are in two different galaxies, already, I'm like, no. We have definitely only been talking about one galaxy. They say it over and over again. In the first sentence, they say one distant galaxy. In the second sentence, they say same distant galaxy. In the last sentence, they say same distant galaxy. So already, I'm not liking how A sounds because we haven't been talking about two different galaxies. I'll read on just to double check. It says, if they're in two different galaxies, it is not possible to determine whether or not they are approximately the same distance from Earth. Okay, where's the brightness? I thought we were talking about the brightness. So answer choice A just does not connect to the conclusion. It doesn't affect the conclusion at all. If I look at answer choice B, if any two stars are in the same distant galaxy, okay, that is okay so far. Differences in the elements each is burning will be detectable from Earth. Well, our conclusion wasn't about the elements. It was about how bright the stars are burning and comparing it with other characteristics. It was not about the difference in the elements, it was in the brightness. So answer choice B doesn't help our conclusion or connect to our conclusion either. Let's look at answer choice C. Answer choice C says the stars in our own galaxy, I don't even know what that means, are not all approximately the same distance from Earth. Okay. I don't have anything to say about that one because it has nothing to do with our conclusion. I'm actually going to be finishing up here shortly. I was only going to be able to do a half hour, but I may hop on later, so look at Brianna. But I was telling Perfect this evening, I'll put this live on my YouTube. So just look up my YouTube, LSAT machine. I have some lives up there, but I'll put this one up there too. Answer choice C says the stars in our own galaxy are not all approximately the same distance. The conclusion wasn't about measuring the distance of the stars. It was about the brightness. And second, if you look at what I have written down in our notes and what we read, they made a really big point to tell us that the distance is not why the stars look look different in brightness. The second note I took says if the two stars have different brightness, it's because of how they burn. So answer choice C, talking about the distance, doesn't have anything to do with our conclusion because we're already told that the distance in the first sentence is insignificant. It doesn't matter. So answer choice C, and what I really think my biggest issue with answer choice C is that it does not bring up what the conclusion is about, which is the brightness of the stars and using the other characteristics of other stars. So let's see answer choice D. Answer choice D says, and remember, we want to look for, and I always tell my students, you want to go back to the conclusion and remind yourself what the conclusion said. So the conclusion says, we can determine stars' brightness by correlation with other traits or other characteristics. So, our answer choice, it better talk about characteristics or other characteristics of stars because that was a new element in our conclusion. Nothing in our conclusion was talking about comparing the stars to anything else. So answer choice D. So our answer choice better explain why we have to do that. Great job, Reeves. Awesome. So let's look at answer choice D. Answer choice D says, there are stars in distant galaxies that have characteristics, other than brightness, discernible from Earth. That could help us because one, if I'm just thinking about puzzle pieces, it brings up the word characteristics. And we need something that ties to our conclusion, which is about the characteristics of other stars. But let's look a little bit deeper. It says there's stars in distant galaxies that have characteristics other than brightness discernible from Earth. So what that is saying is there are other traits other than brightness that you can use for correlation. And that explains why they came to the conclusion that we could determine the brightness by comparing with other characteristics. Answer choice D, if we add it to the stimulus, it tells us that we can see those characteristics. If we couldn't see those characteristics, we wouldn't be able to determine the star's brightness. So answer choice D is making it possible for us to compare the characteristics. Answer choice D is the only one that explains why are the characteristics even relevant. And there's something else I want to say about answer choice D, but I'm going to come back to it. But let's just so answer choice D is the correct answer, but let's take a look at answer choice E just to check. Answer choice E says, if there are significant differences in how far away two stars are from Earth, already I'm thinking they didn't tell us what happens if there's significant differences. They told us what happens when there's not a significant difference. But anyway, it says if there are significant differences in how far away two stars are from Earth, then those stars will differ significantly in apparent brightness. The conclusion isn't saying that the stars have to differ in brightness. The conclusion says we should be able to determine how the brightness correlates with other characteristics by studying other stars. Answer choice E doesn't tell us anything about studying the stars, why we should be able to determine. And I actually think that's a big part of the conclusion, saying we should be able to determine. Because if you look at answer choice D, it's saying that the characteristics are discernible, meaning you can see them from Earth. If you could not see them from Earth, then scientists wouldn't be able to even use them. So answer choice D has to be an assumption. One, because it connects the premise to the conclusion. It brings in the characteristics, why we can rely on the characteristics. And two, if it's not true, if they were not discernible from Earth, meaning if you could not see the characteristics from Earth, then the conclusion fails. This is a really hard one, Francis. This is a really hard one. It is a level 4. It is really hard. So don't feel bad if this one tripped you up. I think, and even I explaining it, and I think this is something that LSAT tutors don't do enough. Like, we're all humans. Like, I don't think I even noticed it at first, but D, I didn't read the question stem where it says, what is an assumption the argument requires? That's actually very rare for me to not read the word requires. So when I saw the word requires, I should have instantly thought this is a necessary assumption. And so this shows you how noticing patterns can help when your other tricks don't kick in. So I looked over the word requires. I was still able to figure it out, but I just did it a different way. So there's plenty of ways to figure this out. But let me talk about the necessary assumption way, because I know that's the way most classes and courses teach. Because the question is asking, what is an assumption the argument requires? Requires, means necessary. So they're asking, what's necessary? Oh my gosh, 5K likes. Thank you guys. That's crazy. And 50 cents. That's actually the most I've ever made. That's crazy. So if we think about what's being required, that means that in our answer choices, we want to test out if the answer choice is false. Does the conclusion hold? So in other words, when they're asking which answer choice is required for this argument, they're asking, if you didn't have this answer choice, then the argument would fail. So if I look at answer choice D says there are stars in distant galaxies that have characteristics we can see from Earth. If I were to say that's false, so there are characteristics other than brightness there are not characteristics that we can see from Earth. Well then, how is the conclusion possible? How is it possible that we can determine a star's brightness by comparing with other traits if answer choice D is wrong, if we can't see other traits from Earth? And so necessary assumption questions are, I don't want to say they're obvious, but their answers are typically, they feel a little simple. And when I say simple, I just mean you kind of feel oh, that's obviously that's required. And why do we need to say that? So when you see questions asking about what the argument depends on, relies on, requires, those words, any synonym of necessary, those are the answer choices, the questions that you can try the negation test. And the negation test is just what I did. I negated answer choice D. Answer choice D says, we can see characteristics from Earth. I negated it to say, we cannot see other characteristics from Earth. If that was true, then the conclusion doesn't work. So that means we need answer choice D. Answer choice D is required for the argument to work. So, me going back through this one, I actually may have probably, if I read the word requires, I probably would have defaulted to what I just did, the negation test first. And so this is I like showing this because this happens on test day. Like anyone who tells you your test day is going to go perfect, or like you're not going to get a hard question, you're going to get a hard question, you're going to miss a word. But the more you practice, then the more you will still catch yourself. Which is why some courses, they really want you to memorize every single question type and every single process. And I think that's helpful. There's definitely times where you might not catch them and you still need to recognize the patterns. But I hope that was helpful, me backtracking and talking about the necessary assumption part, because yes, anytime you're seeing requires, depends, relies, those are the questions that you can cancel out the answer choice and see, does it impact the conclusion? If you cancel out the answer choice and it ruins the argument, then that is a necessary choice, necessary assumption. That one was a very tough one. That was a good one to go over. I promised myself I would try to finish this paper I've been trying to write today. This was my break, so I'm going to try now. I might hop on later, but I'm thinking of doing, if you want to join my super fans, I'm thinking of doing super fans so I can do scheduled lives, and then we can spend longer going through actual sections. So because I haven't been doing scheduled lives right now. Oh, you guys really see, I have ADHD. This is why I'm so bad with schedules. Okay. Let's say I'm going to probably be back on tomorrow at 2. I'm not going to promise tonight because I just don't know. Maybe. So just keep a lookout. But I'll be back tomorrow at 2. And then I'll come up with a super fan schedule and put it up so then you guys can see when I'll be scheduled and if you want to join the super fans, because then I can do it. Okay, great. I'm glad. Thank you. She is loved. Thank you so much, Reeves. Yes, Francis Eastern. Yes, thank you guys. And if you're just joining, I didn't get to introduce myself, but I'm a third-year law student. I took the LSAT in 2020 when I had logic games on it. I scored 170 the first time I took it, and that was the only time I took it, and I was able to get a full tuition scholarship to a top 20 school, and now I only have 1 semester left. I love tutoring the LSAT, but I just don't have time for it, and I'll be working at a firm next year in New York City, so I definitely won't have time for it, so I'm trying out TikTok. And it's expensive. I couldn't afford me, so I don't know. I feel like I want to, I don't know, the LSAT shouldn't be as scary as it is. But okay, guys, thank you so much. I'm glad it was helpful. This is so fun. So definitely I'll schedule one for tomorrow at 2. I might go live tonight, but I'll make up a live schedule soon. All right. Thank you guys so much. I hope this helped. Enjoy studying and take a break. Bye, guys.